Hello and welcome to another edition of Currently in Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano. Today, Joanne Peterson, founder of Learn to Cope, joins us to talk about that organization's 20th anniversary and a celebration and fundraiser coming up later this year. First, though, we take a look at the weather and the news for you. Currently in Quincy, it's cloudy. 44 degrees right now. It's going to stay overcast for the day today. Maybe some rain late tonight. Today's highs in the upper 40s, lows around 40 degrees tonight. Very unsettled this week. Chance for rain just about every single day starting tomorrow, with showers in the morning, then steadier rain tomorrow afternoon. Highs tomorrow in the upper 40s. Some clouds start Wednesday, and then rain ends the day with highs Wednesday. Milder into the mid to upper 50s, and then a very messy day here on Thursday as well, with wind and rain. It'll be colder with a high Thursday only into the mid 40s. Right now, Friday looks pretty good, but more rain is expected next weekend, so enjoy the day today. Cloudy, 44 degrees in Quincy right now. Checking out news for you today, voters in 14 states, including Massachusetts, will go to the polls tomorrow for the Super Tuesday presidential primary election. Here in Quincy, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at all 31 precincts. Quincy City Clerk Nicole Crispo says every effort is being made to make it as easy as possible for people to vote.
Point Webster 51A and 23. We heard some signs about lighting in the parking and close to the entrance. We're working on that with the public buildings people. Commissioner Hines has been kind enough to help us with that, and we'll have some lighting there, some temporary lighting there, along with Snug Harbor. Snug Harbor was another one that got dark early, not realizing, you know, it does get dark early, and that we're putting some temporary lighting there as well at the Snug Harbor School. Broad Meadows, there was some concerns about coming in that front entrance, and it's, you know, quite a ways to the back. So we heard what the people were saying. There was a lip there that, you know, wasn't conducive to people with canes and walkers. So therefore, and people with wheelchairs. So we're going to vote in the cafeteria there as well.
Mail-in ballots are also due at the city clerk's office by tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Crispo says there is a ballot drop box located right outside City Hall. Voters enrolled in a party must choose that party's ballot. Unenrolled voters may choose any ballot. Crispo is predicting a turnout of 25 to 38% for tomorrow's primary. By the way, there is no school in Quincy tomorrow due to the election. Well, a major milestone in the construction of the new public safety complex in Quincy. A topping off ceremony was held on Friday, marking the completion of the steel skeleton of the new building that will replace the current police station on C Street. Quincy Mayor Thomas Koch said the project will be a source of pride for generations to come.
What we're doing here today is setting a real message to our public safety departments, our police and fire departments. This is a real visible sign of the value they have in our community. Our value set really as a community, in which we hold our public safety officials in really high regard for what they do each and every day, having our backs. So we're grateful for them. We had an animal shelter to move. We had a homeless shelter to move. We had to acquire and dismantle an old veterans post. So a lot of pieces to this. So I'm really grateful for the team, for all the work that's been done in this. It's going to be something that we're all going to be very, very proud of as a community.
Local 7 Iron Workers Union members, elected officials, and police officers and firefighters all signed the steel beam before it was secured in place. The new $130 million public safety complex will serve as home for the police department, fire department administration, and emergency management office. It's scheduled for completion in October of 2025. The current police station will then be demolished to make way for a new park dedicated to first responders. Well, the 11th annual Saving by Shaving fundraiser, hosted by Granite Telecommunications of North Quincy last Thursday, raised $3.5 million for Children's Hospital. Granite CEO Rob Hale said the event brings together elected officials, community leaders, athletes, and the public for a worthwhile cause.
That's inspirational for me because it's a show of community, a show of support for our community by our teammates. As you can see, the room's packed. Somewhere between 700 and 800 teammates at Granite will shave their head, make a minor sacrifice, but in return will generate an awful lot of resources for one of the most powerful hospitals in the world, and that hospital will make the world a better place. Our community, to me, is the key ingredient here. Yes, we're very fortunate to be able to write a big check, but this is an event that brings together our community. So by each individual contributing their hair, in so doing creating a check, we create a better culture, a better community for our company, and I think we therefore make our community better, and I love that. Joe and Matt and some of the other folks that come every year, we're honored to have them. They are community leaders, and they share in their time and their hair with us, but the fact that they choose to spend time with us speaks to me to how powerful this event is. So having Joe and others and the governor and the Celtics join us is special. It's powerful. I'm proud of you. Thank you.
This year, more than 700 people volunteered to have their heads shaved, with Granite donating $2,500 for each participant, and then the Hale family matching that, making each shave worth $5,000, which was all donated to the Every Child Fund at Boston Children's Hospital. Hale estimates that the event has raised $55 million since it started, and that Granite has donated $300 million to charities since the company was founded in 2002. Well, a portrait of First Lady Abigail Adams was unveiled at the Massachusetts State House on Friday. The portrait is on display in the Senate chamber. It marked the beginning of Women's History Month in March. Adams was the country's second First Lady and an early advocate for women's rights. The portrait is a reproduction of an original created in 1766 by Benjamin Blythe. It was a gift from the Massachusetts Historical Society. It also marks the revival of the Senate Art Committee that's now soliciting nominations from the public for a woman to be honored with a statue in the Senate chamber. Bay State residents have until April 30th to submit nominees and a brief explanation of why they should be honored in the Senate. That honoree will be chosen later this year. It's our check of news for you today. Coming up, Learn to Cope is marking its 20th anniversary this year. We meet the founder next. Welcome back. The substance use disorder recovery group called Learn to Cope is celebrating its 20th anniversary later this year. It was founded right here in the city of Quincy by Joanne Peterson, who joins us in studio now to talk to us a little bit about the history of that group, its mission, its purpose, and its future as well. So Joanne, great to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
Yeah, appreciate the
Glad to be here.
opportunity. It's an important topic, certainly, and I know one that has affected you personally, which is really what led to the founding of Learn to Cope, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Tell us a
yes.
bit about how that started, if you could.
So it actually, Bill Keating, the former Norfolk County DA, was the first DA I ever saw talking and warning the public about OxyContin use, and that was back in 2004. And our family had already been going through things since 2001 with that addiction. And I contacted his office and I said, oh, you know, I love that you're warning the public. This has been happening for a while. A lot of young people are out there using these pills and heroin. And he had an event in Stoughton. And obviously he's Congressman Keating now, but back then he was a DA. And I ended up getting up on stage and, you know, sort of talking about what was happening. At that point in our lives, we felt there really wasn't much to lose. We were losing everything, including our family member. But, you know, it evolved in the first time I ever met other parents that I could talk to because they were there in the audience, you know, just attending the event, not telling anyone why they were there, so that, you know, that comfortable feeling I got that night after meeting these parents, that's when we finally started getting together. And our first meeting was actually in Randolph, but with the support of DA Keating, then DA Keating. So that was 20 years ago,
20 years ago.
May of 2004.
Yeah.
And it just has never stopped growing, sadly.
It has. That's right. It's kind of bittersweet, right?
It
That
is.
It has just exploded nationally now.
Yes.
Because the need is still there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's always been there, really. I think this crisis really exacerbated it, but I mean, addiction, substance use disorder has been around for generations.
Right.
But this was so prevalent and just started taking so many lives so quickly. I think it really started needing the attention that it gets.
It was called a crisis, right?
Yes.
When did it actually kind of, you know, get accepted as a crisis situation?
I think in the early 2000s,
Okay.
when they started looking at fatalities, overdoses, you know, a lot of kids in high school, you know, that just all of a sudden were dropping off and people didn't even know what it was, had never even heard about it. You know, I don't need to, I know many people know a company, Purdue Pharma, mismarketed that drug and basically spread it across the nation.
Yeah. Has anything good come from that, Joanne? From, you know, that, I mean, there's multiple lawsuits, you know, billions of dollars in settlements distributed. Did anything good come from that?
I would say the only good thing that's come from it is stigma. People are talking more about
Okay.
substance use disorder. There's still, stigma is still very much alive and well.
Really? Yeah.
Yes, it's gotten better. People aren't as afraid to talk about what's happening to them or their family members. And there's more treatments available. There's also nasal naloxone, which
Yes.
we became a pilot for the state, and we were able to distribute it, and still today, to families, offering training in how to recognize an overdose and literally save someone's life. We've had over 200 saves the last we collected the data on it.
The last week?
No, the last we
Oh.
collected data
Oh, okay.
was over 200.
Okay.
We report that to the Department of Public Health,
see,
as
okay.
well as how many kits we give out and trainings that we do.
Right, as I'm sure you're aware, the Quincy Police Department was the first municipal police department in the country to
Right.
have their officers carry naloxone with them, right?
Right, and I was right around at that time too with
Yes.
Pat Glynn.
Yes, right.
You know, the DA now, Keating, not Keating, I'm sorry, Morrissey. So Quincy's been really proactive, the mayor. And our first Quincy meeting actually was at Eastern Nazarene, I want to say, geez, it might have been like 2010 maybe.
Sounds right, yeah.
And I remember that there was a line out the door of people to get into that meeting.
Really?
It's not as big today. There's a
Okay.
lot more out there now. There's social media, there's groups on social media. We didn't have that back then.
Sure.
But there's still a Quincy group today,
Okay.
still meeting.
So let's talk about what Learn to Cope is. You know, what actually is it, Joanne? What does it do, and how does it benefit folks who are going through this in their lives?
So Learn to Cope is family or friends. So we're mothers, fathers, grandparents, siblings, spouses, partners, cousins and friends that love somebody that's experiencing, you know, addiction. It's mainly opioids, but we are seeing more and more people come for other addictions like alcohol and other drugs, methamphetamine. You know, there's still other prescription drugs sometimes that someone might not be using properly. So we're there to provide, just like our website says, support, education, resources, and hope. And I feel like hope is one of the biggest things that somebody needs, because when you find out that this is happening to someone you love, you lose hope very quickly. You take it internally, you blame yourself, and you think, what did I do wrong? Or did I do too much of this or not enough of that? And you know, you go inward sometimes. So it's very important for people to have a group, or any group really, that's supportive. My belief was, I mean, I grew up with addiction and mental health stuff in my life, my whole life. So when it happened again years later, I thought, I can't live like this for the rest of my life internally alone with this. I need people. And that's what happened. But one of my favorite quotes with Learn to Cope is people should feel better when they leave than they did when they came in. And we strive to make that happen. We have a team of people, they're amazing. There's 16 of us, very well trained regional managers who also train facilitators at all of our meetings on Zoom and in person. And we try to have support, education, resources, and hope in every meeting. Resources are very important to give to people. It's an education. Education about what is addiction or substance use disorder. How does someone get addicted? Rather than focusing on what's happening, I feel like learning about it is power, and that gives you your confidence back because you realize that there's a science behind it. It's not just that someone's being, if someone that doesn't understand it sees someone out there in the struggling in the street, they'll stigmatize them right away. Oh, that person should be out getting a job, or, or if they've relapsed and they get evicted or things happen to them, people don't understand the science behind it and the help and the support that they need, and stigmatizing them just hurts them and their family.
The interesting thing about, I think, Learn to Cope, as opposed to, say, medical assistance treatment centers, is you're really focusing on the whole person, right? The family, friends. It's not just the person going through the disease of addiction, right? But it's all the people surrounding them as well. It says right on your website, peer-led support network. So it's the peers first. They're first in the picture, right?
And one of the things that, just as an example with Narcan, we are first responders a lot of the times. A lot of times people are finding someone they love in their home or in the driveway. So, it was, the old days was let them go, there's nothing you can do. There's a lot of things you can do. One is get educated and then find out how you can, in a loving way. And people like to call us the tough love group. We're really not. We're not. Sometimes you have to, do things that are really hard. But we're not saying kick them out. We don't do that. Maybe in the early days, in the very beginning, it was like, what do you do? And then you'd be told by other groups, there's nothing you can do. But there are things you can do. And one of them is get educated, learn about the disease, learn about how you can be a part of helping rather than, a part of, the problem, really. And some people can go back home, some people can't.
Right.
It's just, everyone's situation is different.
So Learn to Cope. Cope with what? And what does that mean when you say cope?
That's what I was doing. So it's funny, before this was even anything, I had an email address that was Learn to Cope.
Really?
2001, because I would join different, I'd read articles or I would email different people or things, and I didn't want my name anywhere.
Okay.
So I created a Yahoo email address, and this is back in the early 2000s, Learn to Cope.
All right. Oh, okay.
So it wasn't my name, it was like I would email and ask a question, but I didn't want anyone to know who I was.
Because
I didn't
of
want
the
them
stigma,
to know what was
right?
happening,
Yeah.
And I didn't want other parents in town to know that something was happening. And it wasn't just, in my immediate family, it was also my niece ended up caught up in it. I lost a brother in 2011, not to opioid addiction, but to years of alcohol and other substances and mental health issues that, people back in the 70s, it was more about, kick them out or this and that, when I was a little girl, and my mother had no support. And I think now, and my mother even said to me years later, I wish there was a Learn to Cope around when I was going through this with your brother.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that was part of the reason I formed it the way I did, is I wanted everything we needed and didn't have.
Okay.
So learning to cope by yourself is no fun.
Yes. Yeah.
But now we can all cope together,
Yeah.
right?
And kind of pull the shade back a little bit, right, on the secrecy. That would just, perpetuate the problem, right?
Yeah,
Without
secrets
addressing
hurt.
it, yeah.
Stigma hurts. You don't have to shout out from the rooftops what you're going through.
Right.
But the shame, you can wear that like a heavy coat, just like grief is like a heavy coat. Like anything that is hurtful like that, think of the young children that have parents that are out there. They've lost parents and they're in school and they have to see the other parents with the two-parent families. That's hurting them, but they're not talking about it.
Yeah.
They might not even tell anyone they lost their parent. They live with a foster parent or another caregiver or a grandparent.
Yep. Which leads me to your event coming up in May. This is the 20 years of family resilience and hope for Learn to Cope. It's going to be Thursday, May 16th, 6 to 10 p.m. at the Grand Links Golf Club right here in Quincy.
Yes.
Tell me all about it. What'll be happening?
Well, we're calling it sort of a night of commencement, like just in resilience. There'll be people in that room that were here 20 years ago that might still be a part of Learn to Cope as a volunteer or maybe even a staff member now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There'll be people in that room that have supported us over the last 20 years along the way. Former governors, the governor is invited. I think she's coming. We'll invite the mayor of Quincy.
Sure.
And just, anyone that's interested in coming and helping us just sort of commemorate those 20 years. There's been a lot of lives saved. There's been a lot of lives lost. That's why we don't really like to, when we were creating even just the event, we didn't want to use the word celebrate really because we've lost so many people.
I see. Okay.
And we will be honoring, that we'll have a special spot that night to honor those people that we've lost, but we're also honoring people like Dr. Alex Wally. He's getting an award that night. If it wasn't for him doing his standing order for nasal naloxone and trusting me, him and former BSAS Michael Botticelli, allowing us to become a pilot to train and, save people's lives and give family members the opportunity to go home with this tool. So we're honoring him, and then we're also honoring a longtime mom, Mary Duramo, who's been with us since the very first meeting.
Wow.
And she has volunteered for us for years, and then when she retired, she became our website specialist.
Is that
So
right?
she's works, part-time,
Yeah.
but 7 days a week she's on that computer,
Getting information
approving we get new registrations on our website every week.
Yep.
Everything's confidential, anonymous, free. Nothing costs anything, ever. We answer the phones every day. There's no 5 o'clock closed. If someone called at 8 o'clock, somebody's going to check that voicemail at some point within the next 24 hours and they'll get a call back.
Okay. Yeah.
Emails, constantly answering emails. They never go unanswered.
Because I've heard it said that when you're ready, that's the right time to get treatment, right? It's when that person reaches out or when that family member reaches out, that's the time that it has to happen.
Yeah.
Because you've kind of hit bottom, right?
Right.
Okay.
And a lot of what we do now, especially since COVID, we had to pivot everything like everybody else with COVID, and we have meetings on Zoom. We have meetings in Spanish. We have grief groups. We have Still Learning, Still Coping, which Peter Babineau in our Western Mass region, he runs our East Hampton Family Center. He started Still Learning, Still Coping, which is families that have lost one person but still have another person struggling.
Ah, okay.
And then we have Learn to Cope Remembers. Our Kathy Alamo started that one. And then we have our Falmouth Center that has a grief group meeting there. And then the Sun Will Rise uses our space for their meeting there too. So we have 2 there. But we do yoga, sound healing. We've had different rock painting, putting together broken pieces of china with the, I forget what you call it. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of it.
Mosaics.
But yeah, so, things to do too, so that we're kind of finding ways to not always focus on what we're
Sure.
going through.
Yeah.
So that's a healthy thing for us.
There are 27 chapters of Learn to Cope, 12,000 members, a chapter in Florida,
Yes, yeah.
and online, right?
Online, we have Zoom meetings Monday through Thursday. We have in-person and Zoom. So Monday through Thursday night, there's always a meeting somewhere. And the nice thing about Zoom is people can join from anywhere. We've had people
Right.
from Portugal join our Spanish meetings.
Is that right? Okay. Tell me a little bit about the Forget Me Not Fund that you'll be starting up.
This is an initiative I've wanted to do for a really long time.
Yeah.
In the summertime, we have a Canopy Lake Day, and we've done it, I think last year was our 6th year, and it's children that have been affected by addiction, either by losing parents or being raised by foster care grandparents, or just their parents are in recovery. So we have a day at Canopy Lake for them, so that they can just have a day, and the grandparents have a day to get together, or, you know, caregivers. So we're going to take that a step further, and we'll announce that on May 16th, but
Okay.
it'll be the Forget Me Not Fund.
Okay.
And one of the things that, one of the scholarships that we will give out will be for people that are 18, have aged out, and have been accepted to college. A lot of times they're eligible for a lot of scholarships, but there isn't one for like dorm room setup.
Right.
Getting a laptop
Yep.
and bed sheets and, you know, things like that. So
Mini fridge and stuff.
Exactly. So they'll be able to apply for that.
Yeah.
And then we'll have scholarships that will be for, you know, people that are raising kids that can't afford gymnastics or dance class or lacrosse or basketball,
expensive stuff
football.
now, yeah.
Right. So their family, if they're under 18, they can write us an essay.
Okay.
We're forming a committee now that's people outside of Learn to Cope that will review the applications,
Okay.
and then our board will approve them. So we're going to try to do this every year. So we're going to put in a significant amount of our donations, which comes sadly from obituaries.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot of fundraising.
Right.
Although this event is a fundraiser.
Sure.
It's the first one we've had publicly in 5 years.
I hope it's a great success, Joanne.
hope so.
And again, bittersweet, right? Good and bad, that Learn to
It
Cope
is.
is there.
It is.
Yeah.
I have to say, I've met friends that will be my friends for life.
Sure.
Just, you know, doing this work and having it myself.
Yeah. Hope we've been able to get the message out a little bit for you here today.
Yeah, well, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
having us and talking about this.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for
Appreciate
coming
it.
by.
Thank you.
Just enough time to check the weather for you for the rest of the day. Today, increasing cloudiness. It'll be mild with highs up around 50 degrees. Rain arrives this evening, continues through the day tomorrow, and more rain on Wednesday, Thursday as well. Thanks again to Joanne Peterson for joining us from Learn to Cope.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks to our crew. Thank you for watching. Friday here on the show, Quincy Commissioner of Natural Resources Dave Murphy stops by with his 2024 projects. Meantime, it's our website for you, qatv.org. All our programs are there. There's news and information, video on demand, live streaming, and a whole lot more. For all of us here at QATV, I'm Joe Catalano. Have a great week.